check. I did that for Greg only. Welcome back to the Rotary Club of Des Moines and our June 6, 2024 meeting. I'm past President Matt Busick, happy to stand in for Becky today. So, first things first, I want to introduce a number of guests who are here to join us today. If each of you could please stand, stay standing, and then we'll greet you properly once everybody's been introduced. So first off, Nora Everett, a long-lost friend of mine. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Matt.
Nora is retired from Principal Financial Group, Iowa Public Radio Board member and guest of Scott Bennett. Brianne Bai. Brianne is here from the City of Des Moines Economic Development Office. She is a project manager and guest of Claudia Schagel. Welcome. Mertz Anderson, guest of Elaine Estes. There she is. Hi, Mertz. Welcome. And then the following four guests are from Hamilton's guest of Bob Christensen, who will be at the podium shortly.
You expected some action here today?
I think so. He's really loaded us up. Sasha Peterson.
Oh, Greg.
Sasha Peterson Modloff. I hope I pronounced that
You
correctly.
did, thank you.
Scott Erickson. Carlton Peterson. Oh, Carlton's not here. Okay, so you're one light, Bob. You try better next time. And David Kortner. Welcome, everyone. Okay, it's tumbler time. Please consider donating $5 to the Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation if you do not have a dollar sign on your badge, green dollar sign. Even if you don't, please consider throwing a little extra into the foundation. It's how we do the majority of our excellent work outside of Thursdays. And by the way, I step into the role of the president of the Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation next year, so naturally we're raising the badge number. That's going up, so just beware. All right. So I think everybody knows this is kind of fun to be back at the podium and saying hello to everyone. I will not be coming back up, so I'm going to give you a list of who is coming to the podium. First off will be Randy Worth with a quick announcement. Then past President Sean Mullen will be at the podium to give us our moment of inspiration, four-way test, and the Pledge of Allegiance. You'll get to greet everyone, and then after that, Bob Christensen will be up at the podium to introduce our guest. So, Randy.
Today is my first day glasses free from cataract surgery. You all look different. I won't say better or worse, but different. And for all things wheels, today is the anniversary of the invention of the shopping cart. So, a quick reminder about our event, special event out at Camp Dodge this Saturday, 10 o'clock at the Gold Star Museum. Special thanks to Bill Jackson for helping me set this up. We'll be greeted by their board chair, give a guided tour through the vehicles that are outside, plus through the museum. And it's a real nice accent to the D-Day activities and thoughts and that. So just remind you, bring your ID, and hope to see you there Saturday, 10 o'clock.
Fellow Rotarians and friends, I invite you to stand as you are able. Today, as we commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day, we are reminded of profound courage, unity, and resilience demonstrated by the Allied forces on that fateful day. It is fitting that we reflect upon the powerful message embedded within the movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, as recently performed by our own Des Moines Symphony with the participation of fellow Rotarians Richard Early, Steve Belay, and yours truly. Where Beethoven's setting of Friedrich Schiller's immortal words of the Ode to Joy resound with timeless relevance. This work, with its transcendent finale, brings Schiller's words to life. Alle Menschen werden Brüder. All men shall become brothers. This vision of universal brotherhood, of shared humanity, is as vital today as it was in 1824 when Beethoven first introduced it to the world, and perhaps even more poignant when we consider the sacrifices made on June 6, 1944. On that day, soldiers from diverse backgrounds and nations came together on the beaches of Normandy, bound by a common goal, to restore peace and freedom to a world in turmoil. Their bravery and selflessness echoed the symphony's call for unity and joy in our shared existence. Just as Beethoven, despite his deafness, composed music that transcended his personal struggles to touch the hearts of millions, the soldiers who stormed those beaches overcame unimaginable challenges, driven by hope and a sense of duty. The essence of Ode to Joy is not merely in its melody, but it's in its message. It speaks of a joy that is not fleeting, but eternal, born of the unity and love that binds us together as human family. Beethoven and Schiller unite us to envision a world where differences are celebrated, where compassion and empathy reign, and where the spirit of camaraderie triumphs over division and despair. Today, as then, the symphony's powerful message is a clarion call to rise above our divisions, to seek joy not just for ourselves, but for all humanity. The brave men who fought on D-Day did so with the hope that future generations would live in a world where peace and brotherhood prevail. It is our duty to ensure that their sacrifice was not in vain. So today, as we stand here, let us remember the music of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and let it resonate within us. Let Schiller's words inspire us to forge a future defined by joy, unity, and unwavering hope. In the spirit of those brave souls who gave all on the shores of Normandy, let us commit to a world where all men shall become brothers, and let that vision guide us towards a brighter, more harmonious tomorrow. Friends, as a point of personal privilege, Beethoven's Ninth also has an added and very personal meaning for me. As of a week ago today, I completed 5 proton beam stereotactic body radiation therapy treatments for prostate cancer at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Please know my prognosis is excellent. My sincere thanks to those individuals in this club whose thoughts and prayers were with me during my treatment. To all of you here today, please believe in the value of early cancer screening and treatments. This is my prayer and my wish for each of you. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our famous 5-way test.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Is it fun? Please take a moment to extend the hand of friendship to your fellow
Break a leg there, Robert.
Hey, how are you?
Tuesday. I'm glad you're doing that. Sean, that was outstanding. Thank you so much. Outstanding. Jordan.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, special guest, Kitty, and a special thank you to Dave Buzik. I'd like to echo what Sean said. Since childhood, today's date, June 6th, has been an important date in my calendar. The longest day, the beaches of Normandy. I had an uncle that fought in the Battle of the Bulge. His name was Manuel, and he never came home. I would like to take this time to thank each and every veteran in our audience that has served their country. Thank you. I'm truly honored today to introduce our featured guest speaker, Myrna Johnson. She was born and raised in Ruthven, Iowa, northwest Iowa, near where I was born and raised, Humboldt. She graduated from Wartburg College with a bachelor's degree, went on to Harvard Kennedy School, received a master's degree in public administration. Myrna has been executive director of Iowa Public Radio since January 2014. She has led Iowa Public Radio through a period of significant transformation. An acquisition of IPR's 26-station network from the Iowa Board of Regents, reformulating IPR's decision-making process, and leading IPR through a successful first-ever comprehensive campaign. Myrna has grown the IPR newsroom and established a successful digital footprint, including an award-winning newsletter portfolio. She serves on the board of National Public Radio, NPR. Her prior experience includes running the Boston Schoolyard Initiative, managing the National Forum on Children and Nature, serving as Vice President of Government Affairs for the Outdoor Industry Association, and working for 8 years in the National Affairs Department of NPR. In addition to public media, Johnson has significant experience in the parks and open space arena. Like a lot of you, I like to start my day with Iowa Public Radio. Myrna and her staff, in my opinion, they do a fabulous job. Would you please welcome Myrna Johnson.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I have to put my glasses on. It's really good to be back here to see you all. As you may know, I was a member of Rotary for many years, and my schedule I just was not making it to these lunches, so I felt like I needed to drop out. But my heart's still with you, and boy, I tell you, I love that. Our pledge, the whole thing. I love Rotary, and so sorry I'm not with you anymore. But as Bob mentioned, I grew up in Iowa. I'm a daughter of a teacher and a librarian. But my work life took me all over the country. So I lived in Baltimore, worked in DC, in Boulder, Colorado, and in Boston, and came back 10 years ago to run Iowa Public Radio. Because I really believe in what public radio provides to the community. Excuse me. And I feel like we're your partner in creating a really strong community here in Des Moines and across the state.
Hamilton's, we got a dead battery.
I knew that was coming.
Okay, so here we go. So at Iowa Public Radio, we like to think of ourselves as the place where news, music, and culture meet. We're a community-based public radio network with a multimedia presence, more so than we used to be. We used to be entirely radio. But we're trying to be wherever people are in terms of their media needs. We're an independent nonprofit advised by a volunteer board, which includes Nora Everett and many others in the community you may know. And we're committed to serving all of Iowa. More than 86% of our funding comes from listeners, businesses, and organizations in local communities across the state. And I know many, many, many of you are our supporters, so thank you. We have a long history. Just a couple of years ago, we celebrated 100 years of service here in the state. Two of our stations were among the very first, the ones in Ames and Iowa City, were among the first stations to receive FCC licenses. So we're very proud of that history and really feel inspired to continue the legacy that was created by these very long-serving stations here in the state. In 2004, the Board of Regents created Iowa Public Radio to manage all of the stations owned by the universities. Each university had a radio group, and Iowa Public Radio was to manage those stations as in a cooperative nature. And so we've been operating those stations since 2004. And there's 26 stations, and I'll show you here a map. We have 26 stations across the state. We have all news stations. Those dotted lines are AMs, which pretty much cover the entire state. The green ones are our news and Studio One stations, and the red ones are our classical stations. So it's quite a network of stations that we manage and we serve the community with. We have offices in Ames. While we're currently no longer owned by the university, we still have a presence in each campus. So we have studios and offices in Ames, Des Moines, Iowa City, and Cedar Falls, and serve the state from those locations. I do want to give just a tip of the hat to the universities who created this amazing system, and to thank them for giving us time to really, and to collaborate with us in this transition that we've made in the last couple of years. They really gave us the time and the support to do it well. And I really am very thankful for that. The other entity that really helped us in this transition was the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, who supported planning and some resources for some significant initiatives that helped us better understand the needs of our listeners and some of the things that we would need to do to be successful as an independent entity. We also wanted to make sure that as we embarked on this transition, that we really took a look at our mission and our vision and looked forward to where we wanted to go. And so over the last 2 years, we've conducted research into our news and music audiences, we've developed a new strategic plan, and we also launched a new brand, as you see in this presentation. So as we entered this new phase as an independent entity, we knew that we needed to start off well and lay a really strong foundation. And so we embarked on a campaign, a $6.5 million campaign called A Resounding Future. The three main initiatives in that initiative were to invest in journalism, to invest in new technology and the next generation talent that we knew we would need to be successful, and to really start building an endowment at Iowa Public Radio. So we had a goal of $6.5 million. We had a really incredible cabinet that was chaired by Nora Everett and Bob Riley here in the Des Moines area, and Julie Munson from Iowa City. And we, in fact, raised $8 million of that. And so we exceeded our goal and feel really good about the community support that is enabling us to embark on this new format that we have, this new way of being as an independent entity. We feel like I wanted to share a little bit about what our impact is in the community. We have 285,000 regular listeners across podcasts, radio, and digital streams. Millions of people come to our website. We have 26,000 subscribers to our award-winning newsletters, and we have over 25,000 members statewide. I think just inherent in all of this is that we were once just a radio network, and these are all of the places that we are today. With podcasts, websites, on our app, there's many ways that we're impacting the community and bringing content to our community. I think many of you, I was talking to Bob and he was telling me how much he loves Weekend Edition. You maybe all have, I hope you all listen to Iowa Public Radio and that you all have your favorite shows. But I do want to highlight a few of the things that we do here locally, in addition to the incredible national content that we have on our air. Talk of Iowa, River to River, Symphonies of Iowa. These are all locally produced shows that highlight our community and give our community an opportunity to interact around the important issues of the day. We have a really strong podcast portfolio as well. You may have listened to Here First, which is our morning news podcast. Caucus Land, which is a recurring series around the caucuses. And one of our most popular ones right now is called Garden Variety. It's a gardening podcast hosted by Charity Debbie. So you can find us in many places in many ways. And we've been winning awards, which I'm very proud of. We just recently won 4 regional Murrow Awards for our reporting. And I think, as I've mentioned earlier, is that our newsletter portfolio won a national award from the Online News Association, and we beat out the PBS NewsHour for that. So we feel our little IPR portfolio, it's a pretty strong portfolio. So we're super excited about the work that we're doing and how it's evolving. We have about a $9 million budget, and this just illustrates that it's the community that supports this station and this network. We have 53% coming from members, 20% coming from corporate support, what we call corporate support. It's our equivalent to advertising. Major giving is a growing important funding source for us. And then last year we had 14% from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. That's a little higher than normal because we were receiving support for this transition that we're going through. But as you can see, there's no state support, there's no university support anymore. This is a very community-driven and funded organization. So I wanted to paint a picture of sort of the broader environment that we work in, and that we all sort of live in, right? There's just fewer news outlets. Newspapers are shrinking. Some of them are closing. There's the media landscape is very much shifting to digital and away from sort of hard copy newspapers, and frankly, tuning in on your FM tuner. So there's a big change happening in our media consumption. And then one other thing that I wanted to highlight for us in terms of a challenge is we have a lot of infrastructure that we have to take care of. And so it's one more challenge for us is to keep all of that radio equipment working in working order and supporting our listeners. Here's a little more detail on the news climate right now. This is a slide from the Pew Research Center, and Iowa has lost more than 700 journalists in 12 years. So that's a lot of journalism. And it's local journalism, right? I feel like there's a ton of national journalism out there, but it's local journalism that we're losing. And I feel like we know it's an important part of vibrant communities to have really good information systems to support the work that we're all trying to do in our communities. And nationally, newspapers are really, they're closing all of the time. There's been a net loss of almost 2,900 newspapers since 2005 in the US. So I don't share this to depress you, but just to say that it energizes us, to make us think about how we can be more supportive of the community and maybe picking up some of the slack that has been lost with this loss of newspapers and the loss of journalists. This is one particular I mentioned, sort of, this is a share of ear slide. There's a lot of audio listening happening. People are listening to podcasts. It's kind of audio is really having a moment, but it's less on FM radio dial and more on podcasts, than it was 10 or 12 years ago. It's more on podcasts, smart speakers. There's people's cell phones. So we know we have to be on all devices, and are really focused on making sure we're serving our community with the audio that they desire on the devices that they desire. And then there's also news fatigue. So we're also thinking about sort of how we present the news, how we provide some bright points, right? Our daily newsletter has a sunny side section, right? So we're making sure that we're providing some uplifting news along with the news that may make you feel a little bit in loss of control. So we're thinking a lot about that and how we present our talk shows, the stories that we cover, and the ways that we share information. I was going to do one more thing here. So we are, as I mentioned, we are looking at, this is not the same slide, but that's okay. So we are, so these are the things that we're doing as we look to the future. We're investing in journalism, we're growing the next generation talent and technology, we're expanding our digital footprint, we're recommitting to our audience with news and music services, and we're building an endowment for a strong financial future. We feel like these are all really important things for us to do as we move forward. And I frankly feel incredibly positive about our future. You know, despite all of those indicators in the community about the change in people's habits, I feel strongly about some of the things that we've put in place that have really helped us innovate and think ahead. So we've created an innovation fund that allows us to invest in new ideas and test ideas and then take them forward. We're also investing in, because of the campaign, we've been able to invest in talent that's really looking at the digital side. So, and really taking us there. So I feel incredibly positive about our future, and know that the community supports us, and look forward to your support going forward. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Yes?
If a certain candidate gets into office again with the Project 2025, where they want to really defund National Public Radio, PBS, and so forth, and I know these have been attacked over time, but my concern is that if it happens, we could pull it off. So what are your lobbying efforts at a national scale to inform Congress that, hey, what we're putting out there is educational, informative, and so forth?
Yeah, and it's very focused. So the lobbying efforts are very focused from the radio station side, because we know our power is the 300 public radio stations that are out there across the country. So the efforts are really less from the national entities and more from individual stations talking about the community service that they provide to the community. NPR last year created a sort of a rural initiative. So really highlighting what's going on in rural communities, because honestly, in a lot of places, the public radio station is really the most important thing in many rural communities. So I feel like that's an important initiative, but it is dangerous times. I mean, there's no question about it. It's tough times. And I was working at NPR in its government affairs office in the first wave. I don't know if you guys remember the contract with America. And I was in the National Affairs Office, the Government Affairs Office of NPR during that period. So this has been happening for 30 years, right? But you're right. I mean, the right set of people and things could turn south. But we do know that our strength is in the stations, and that's where we're focused. Yes?
What's your favorite program to listen to?
He asked me what my favorite program to listen to. You know, honestly, I still really love Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. It just, it makes me laugh, and I need to laugh, so I would say that, yeah. Yes,
Myrna, you're on NPR's board.
I am.
So could you give us a little background on what's been happening in the newsroom in
Yeah.
Washington,
Mhm.
and how concerned should we be?
Yes. I would say, so what, just a little background, Dave asked how things are going in the newsroom and how concerned we should be. So you may have heard that there was a reporter who was in the NPR newsroom who wrote an essay criticizing the editorial judgment of NPR. And so that's the background. I think what I would say is I feel really strong about the current leadership. We have a new CEO. I feel really strong about her. I think the news director, or the woman running, Edith Chapin, who runs the newsroom, is really strong, and she's really she's listening. She's listening to the feedback, and has created a really strong. She's creating a place for both the stations and NPR to have a conversation about editorial, and about the things that we cover and how we cover them, so that there's a stronger sense coming from the grassroots, sort of what we're covering. And she's also investing in more editorial staff. So I think, one of the criticisms that I hear, and frankly I think there's something too, is that you may hear several stories on the same topic, across all of these shows that we do. So, and some of them are not even produced inside NPR, right? So Here and Now or Fresh Air are produced at stations, one in Boston, one in Philadelphia, in those examples, Philadelphia. And so having an editorial team that's sort of looking at the overall picture is something that she's investing in, and the board just gave her authorization to do. So I think there's some really good things going on. It's, I think it just feeds into this broader climate where people want to put news entities in either the left bucket or the right bucket. And NPR is trying to aim towards the center. So, and I don't think that changes. That doesn't change. It's very important for us to be aiming there.
Is the board in a position to be able to give some cover and protection to the newsroom?
I think so. Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think we support the newsroom, and there's a strong sense of a firewall also between the board and the newsroom. We see our role as guiding the organization, and obviously this is a piece of it, but we're not involved. But what we're trying to provide the resources for them to do it well.
What is the size of the endowment? How has it been growing?
So we started the campaign having about $2 million in both sort of reserves and endowment, so not a lot. And we've just added, some of these will be future gifts, right? So we can't count them today, but we're going to be adding about another $4 million. So.
Are those from people that are future Hamilton customers?
Some of them, yeah. But we because of the campaign, we were able to add $1 million in cash. So we have another $1 million in cash that we've added, and we have another $3 million or so that will be coming. So there'll be an increasing emphasis for us to really continue to grow that, because we know that that's a strong nonprofits have strong endowments. So we know it's important. Is
AM going away, and if so, when?
You know what? I think AM is still here for a little while. She asked, is AM got a future, basically. I think it's here for a while, especially in rural Iowa. People are still using AM radio. Our AM audiences are decreasing. They definitely are decreasing. People, if they have a choice, will choose the FM. But in some places, that's all we have, and we have audiences there, and we'll continue to serve them as long as they want to be listening. Yes.
About what do you think Iowa Public Radio does the best?
I think we tell sort of long form stories well. I think that, to me, that's what public radio does well, right? You know, that, you know, it's not just sort of headlines and you know, and little sound bites. We're able to sort of tell the story with a human touch. And I think that's a really important way to tell policy stories. I think that human touch is really important. Yes?
When contributions are made from companies, when do they count as a tax deduction, or when are they an expense?
So if you're doing a corporate, if you're an underwriter, or what we call an underwriter, which is sort of an advertiser, that would be a marketing expense for a business. But making a gift, making a contribution through to as a donation would be tax deductible. Yeah. Yes, in the back.
Myrna, thanks for coming.
Yes.
Do you have freelance journalists that work for you, or are they all, for the most part, on your staff?
We are using some freelancers, particularly on the digital side. So we have a contributors network who we go to for particularly music journalism. I guess another great example is we just, for On the Air, is that I might even heard a story this morning. We have a new reporter on the Ag Beat, Rachel Kramer, who worked for us she did a few stories for us before she became an employee. But for the most part, it's employees. You're going to be hearing in there, but we have a handful of others. Yes.
You mentioned that there are still the stations and the contact with the university, but it is different now than what it was.
Yeah.
What do you use I assume there are ties with the journalism departments in each of those schools? Are those your future draft choices? Are you involved with their educational process? How does that tie with?
Yeah, so just sort of the big picture. So the stations were owned by the universities, and they no longer are, but we still have studios on campus. And in some cases, we have student employees. Not every location do we, but at Iowa State, or actually I think we do it at all locations now. Iowa State, our operations team uses student employees, and many of those employees have become full-time employees. So yes, I would say they're a bench for us that, you know, helps us grow our team. In Cedar Falls, we have some folks who we for many years had an on-air host position that was a student position. Cece Mitchell was our last one, and we hired her full-time when she graduated because she was so good. So we don't have a student employee there yet right now on air. But we do have some folks working with us on the production side from the student population in Cedar Falls. So I guess Cece's another example, but I mean, Charity Nebby was a student at WOI before she, so I think it's been a pipeline for us for sure. And Iowa City the same. We've got, we just hired a digital producer who had been a student employee. Yes?
Speaking of students, how have your efforts evolved to engage with younger audiences and the younger demographic?
We have, well, you might want to check out our newsletter, Chatter. That is definitely a newsletter that's designed for a younger audience, and it's done by younger employees at IPR. Our podcasts are aimed at a younger demographic. And we also, our music programming in general is really aimed at a slightly younger audience. So we're hoping that we can bring that music, you know, team into the sort of full suite, but our Studio One programming for sure. Yeah. Yes.
Newspapers have been the paper of record for years, and with them going away, how are you archiving your content for future use by historians?
Well, you know, I think that's a good thing to think about. I mean, I'm not sure of the life of certainly right now they are on the web, but I think it's a really good question. You know, it's not like we'll have the I can't, what'd you call those machines that you would go into in the
Fish.
library? Yeah, exactly. We want to have that kind of, but yeah, I think it's a good thing to think about. We haven't thought about it. It's an important thing to think about.
Along the same line, Myrna, not to go too dark here, but it seems to me that this is you own an asset that, if things really started falling apart, would be, whether that be due to a weather catastrophe or something like this. In what ways are you hardened your infrastructure so that you're able to continue communicating to all of us in rough situations?
So in a couple we our engineers work very hard to have a backup situation at every transmitter site, every major transmitter site. We have these smaller translators that we don't have as strong a backup situation for, but the really big ones, there's a strong backup scenario. So if something went south, we would have, some sort of duplication that we could provide. It's on a very old transmitter that was the previous one, right? That's the way it works. Like when we deploy a new transmitter, the old one becomes our backup. So that's one way. The other way is all of our stuff is streamed. So we can always direct people to our stream. So you can get News Studio One, News, Classical, via your computer, via your phone, via an app. So you should be able to get our content. I suppose if the World Wide Web went down, then we'd have a problem. I think we would all have a problem.
We would.
Yeah. I will say that emergency alerting is really important to us, and so we, all radio stations and TV stations are required to provide emergency alerting. But we've recently taken on a bigger role here in the state of being we instigate the message when you hear those alerts. So while WHO AM continues to be sort of the primary, because we have a statewide network of stations, we're able to deliver it in a really efficient manner across the state. So we're taking on that role and feel like it's a very important role for us to take on. Yes.
I was impressed by the numbers that you shared on your audience.
Mm-hmm.
My experience with my network is that young people tend not to listen to public radio. Most of my friends do. Is there a way that you find to market to people as they sort of age to attract them to public radio?
Yeah, well, that reminds me of a story when I first came on board. Kurt, if you listen to Classical, you might know Kurt Snook. Kurt had and he still has a show on our air, but he used to be a full-time announcer. And he said, the Classical audience has always been 70 and over. It's 70 over now, and it will always be 70 and over. Which is an exaggeration, it's really not quite that old, but his point is people do age into things. I don't know if you can assume that people will age into listening to radio, but I think we're very focused on providing digital products that younger audiences will want, because we can't convert them to being radio listeners. We maybe can get them to stream on their phone, right? And so our marketing person has been very focused on that, on the digital marketing side, and trying to find ways and testing ways to reach young audiences and bring them into the fold. Yes.
Is there ways that you work with the educational system and curriculum with teachers to present maybe a radio show or a segment of a radio show to students and create a learning experience around that?
Not in any real organized way. Almost all of our reporters will do that kind of thing, right? Well, they'll be asked to come to school and they'll have a conversation, or we've had folks. Ben Kiefer regularly teaches a course at the University of Iowa, but we haven't really made those connections between our work and education. Public TV has a lot, and I think their programming lends itself a little bit more to that than ours does, because ours is really more sort of very news oriented and is a little more ephemeral. But if you look at, yeah, I mean, Susie could tell you probably lots of stories of lots of examples there. But I think because they're sort of formatted for the more sort of topical, educational, it's a little easier, I think. Do I need to be wrapping up now?
Yes, one last question.
Last question, oh boy, I think it was back here.
Have you had any attempt to connect with these new private academies?
No.
Well, that was easy.
Well, I feel like I will say that we do like to collaborate, and the kind of collaborators that we look for, that we have looked for, are ones in which we can share content or sort of, you know, broadly reach communities. So the Western Iowa Journalism Foundation is one. We partnered on a reporter in Western Iowa. We're looking at more ways in which we can find other sort of news outlets to partner with. So that's our focus. And on the music side, it's more with venues and, you know, festivals, things like that, where we can sort of extend the reach of the music programming. So it's more sort of a broader look. So, but I'd be intrigued as to what you had in mind. I'd love to talk with you about it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Bob, we will definitely take a foundation contribution for all the advertising for Hamilton. Myrna, thank you so much for your presentation. It's terrific to hear about all the good work that you're doing, and we're very grateful for the balanced programming and balanced narrative. As a token of our appreciation, we've donated a book in your honor to the Des Moines Public Library. It will become part of the Rotary Rosie Reader Van collection. So thank you for your time today. And we welcome you back anytime, or really anyone from Iowa Public Radio. Nora? Always recruiting for the Rotary Club of Des Moines, Matt Busick. Upcoming meetings, upcoming speakers. So what's next will be Tiffany Tauchik, President and CEO of Greater Des Moines Partnership. On June 13, June 20 will be Julia Franken from Mainframe Studios. And on June 27, our Police and Fire Awards, as well as the passing of the gavel. Remember that if you would like to come with guests, Kitty would like to know about that by Wednesday morning. Make sure you RSVP. Love to have more guests here. Thank you to all of our guests today, especially the Hamilton crew. We like to have fun here once in a while, although I don't know that that's our reputation. We're trying to change it. It is changing. It is, maybe. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you, you two, for being part of the program today. Thank you especially to Myrna, and we are adjourned.